this tutorial, I have an assignment for you. This is to test your knowledge on SQL. So we will be checking how good you are in creating database, creating tables, inserting data into tables, querying data, and making joins. So let's dive into the assignment. You're seeing a data model here with 3 tables: student, course, and student enrollment. So you need to create these tables and insert some sample data, and then you're going to have to create a query to fetch data corresponding to the students enrolled in a course after 2015 January 20th. Now if you try to do it yourself, if you're not able to do it, don't worry, I got you covered. Let's move into the solution. First of all, let's create a database. So I'm working with MySQL Workbench for connecting to MySQL. You can use create schema or create database. Let's name the database as training. All right. So we have so many statements to be written. So if you need to execute everything together, maybe let's start with removing the database if it already exists. It's a good idea to do that. So let's write drop schema if exists training. Now we will remove the schema if it exists, and then we'll try to create the schema. All right, next you need to create the tables, right? So let us, okay, before that you need to use the schema. So we need to say use training. All right, so now the schema that we created are selected for use. All right, now let's move into creating our first table, student table. So let's say create table student and then the fields. We have an ID field, right? So ID, let's make it as an integer and let's increment it automatically. That should be the primary key. Auto increment. All right, we have one more field in the student table, which is name. Let's say name, and then let's make it as varchar. And let's limit the size to maybe 30. All right. Now you may have noticed that name is displayed in a different color, right? It's that means it's a keyword. There is a reserved word name. So if you want to use it as a table name or a field name, what you can do is you can use it with backtick character. Okay, so this is the backtick character. It's same as the tilde key in your keyboard. So just wrap it in the backtick character. All right, so we are good to go. Now you have created a table. What is next? Let's insert some sample data. Oh no, before that we need to set the primary key, right? We forgot about it. All right, so let's make ID as a primary key. Primary key ID. All right, now we are good. And what's next? Let's insert some data into table. Insert into student. And what are the fields that we need to insert? It's just the name, because we made ID to auto increment, so that will be taken care of by MySQL. We need to insert name. Okay, I use 2 backticks to use the word name since it is a reserved word. Okay, and then values, let's give a name John in single quotes. All right, now I want to insert 3 more records. I'm just copying and pasting it, and let us change the data. Maybe Mary is the second student. We need another student, maybe Johan, and we have Laura too. All right, now let us just check whether it is working fine. So let me use the select statement, select star from student. All right, so we are done with student table. So now let's check it out. Before executing it, let me just clean it up. You just select everything, and I like this button to clean it up so that SQL will make it, pretty clean. All right, so now let me execute the set of queries, and yeah, there you go. So we have the table student, the data is inserted, and we select everything from the student, and you get the data. All good. Now let's move into the next table. Which is our next table? It's course table, right? So let's create a table for course. Create table course, and we need to have an ID for this, right? ID int. Let's make it as auto increment so it's easier for us. And then we need to have the name field. Again, since name is a reserved word, I'm gonna use backtick. Okay, name. Again, worker. Let's fix the length as maybe 50, and let's set ID as a primary key. Primary key ID. All right, so we have the table course, and now let's insert some data into course. Insert into course, and the field, we just need name of the course, name. And what about the values? Let's have a course coding in Java, maybe. Let me just copy this. Let's maybe 4 courses. Okay, so let me just update the course name. Maybe UI automation in Selenium. Name this one as web development. In React, which is an awesome framework. For the 4th course, we name it as Spring Boot Microservices. All right, so we are good with 4 courses. And for testing, let me use a select command, select star from course. All right, let's clean it up with our excellent toolbar. Good. Now let me execute it, and then we can test it out. Okay, there you go. We got the result from the select, the final statement, and our table is ready with the data. All right, now we need one more table, right? It's a join table. So let's create it. Well, what is the name? Student enrollment. Let's create that table. Create table student underscore enrollment. And this should have an ID, of course. Let's make it as auto increment, and this should have 2 foreign keys, one to the student and another to the course ID. So let's have a field student ID should be integer, and we need a course ID too, course underscore ID, which is also an integer. Well, now we need the enrollment date as well, right? Enrollment underscore date, and this one is a date field, so let's make it as date. And then we need to have a primary key, right? So let's set the primary key first. Primary key ID, and we need to make student ID and course ID as a foreign keys. So let's write foreign key student ID, and should refer to references student. This is pointing to the student table, right? And which is the field in student table, it's ID. So this foreign key from student enrollment table is pointing to ID field in student table. All right, now we have one more foreign key, which is course ID, course underscore ID, and it references, which is the table course table. Course, got a typo here, course table, and the field in the course table is ID. All right, okay, so we are good with this table creation, and now let's test it out. Let's have a select command. Oh, okay, before that, we need to insert the values, right? We didn't insert the values into this table. Insert into student underscore enrollment values. Okay. Oh, okay, I think we forgot to add a semicolon here. Enrollment, and here what are the things that we are adding. We don't need to insert ID because it's auto increment. That will be taken care by MySQL. We need to insert student ID. We also need to insert course ID, which course the student is going to be enrolled. Well, we need to insert the enrollment date as well, right? These are the three values that we need to insert. So let's start with the first student. Okay, ID of the first student, that is 1, for example, 1, because we are entering, we already inserted 4 students here, right? So since ID in the student table is auto increment, when you insert records, it will start by default, it will start with 1, then for the second insertion it will be 2, for the third record the ID will be 3, so it will be incremented 1 by 1, right? Same is the case with course as well. So ideally we will have students with IDs 1, 2, 3 and 4, and courses with IDs 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so here we are making student with ID 1 enrolling to course with ID 1. Okay, and we need to add a date. For inserting date, we have to mention it in single quotes. Okay, so let's put a date 2008 07/04. Okay, some date. All right, now let me just copy and paste it for saving the time. Okay, so the first student is enrolling in different courses, 2, 3, maybe 3 courses here. Let us make the first student enroll in 3 different courses, and let's change the dates as well. Maybe I can make it as 2010 and 2011. Let's change month as well. The dates too. Alright, so the first student has enrolled in 3 different courses on 3 different dates. Okay, so let us add some records for the second student, student number 2. We make 2 records for the second student, student with ID 2. He is enrolling in course 1 and maybe 4. Okay, in different dates. I'm gonna make some changes in the date, 2012 and 13. Let's change the month as well, 1 and 2, 5 and 6. Okay, let's add some more fields. Okay, I'm gonna add 3 records for student 3. Student with ID 3 is enrolling in 3 different courses, maybe 2, 3 and 4. These are the courses for which this student is enrolled. I'm gonna change the dates like 2004, maybe 14, 2015 and 2016. Okay, let's change the dates as well, sorry, the months as well. 9, 10. Alright, change this 9, 19 maybe. Okay, now we have one more student. Let's add some records for that student as well. 3 records for the final student. Okay, student number 4. Oh, we have a student with ID 5. We just added 4 records for students, right? Alright, and this student is going to enroll in courses with IDs 2, 3 and 4. Okay, let's change the date, 2017, 2018 and 2019. Change these fields as well, and the dates 20, 21 and 17 maybe. Okay, so we are good with the data. So we have enough records for the student enrollment table. Maybe let us just test it with the select command, select statement, select star from student enrollment. Alright, again let me just clean up the code. Okay, well, let's execute it and see whether we have the records in this table. Yes, there we go. So we have 11 records added here. Yeah, and we got the data in this table. All right, so this is the last statement executed. We got the results from this statement in the logs, right? Okay, now what's next? Now we are good with the 3 tables. We created the tables, we loaded the data. Now we need to make a query for getting the details, right? So what was the query needed? The question was like, we need to get all the students who are enrolled after 2015 January 20th. That was the question. All right, so let's make a query for that. let's use select. We need the student name, right? So let's write student dot name, and we need the course as well, maybe which course the student has enrolled, course dot name and the date, right? So where is the date present? It's a student enrollment table, right? This is the table. So let me just copy and paste here. Dot enrollment date. Okay, that's a field. So we need these three fields so that we can understand that we're getting the correct results. Now from where? From, let's start with maybe student enrollment table. All right, and then let's make a join. Inner join. We need to make an inner join because you need to get the common records from enrollment table, student enrollment table and student table, right? So let's make a join table. Let's make a join, inner join to where? Student. Or what is our condition for the join? The ID should be equal, right? We have the ID field. In student enrollment table, the ID field for the student is student ID. Student ID, student underscore ID. We have these student underscore ID here for pointing to the student record. So student ID that should be equal to the primary key in the student table, student dot ID, right? Student is the table name, ID is the field name, primary key, right? And then let's make one more join to course table because we need to get the data from the course as well, right? We need the course name. So let's have another inner join course. And on what condition? Similar to this, student enrollment dot course ID, course underscore ID, that's a foreign key, which should be equal to course dot ID. Okay, the primary key in the course table is ID. Okay, so we established both the joins, and then there is a condition in our question, right? Where, what was the condition? The enrollment date dot, we should have it here. Let me just copy it. Enrollment date, yeah, student underscore enrollment dot enrollment date. It should be greater than, what was the date specified? I think it is 2015 January 20th. Yeah, so this is our condition. Now let me just clean it up and let's execute. Now you can see the results. Let us just check it out. So let's see that all these dates, all these enrollment dates are after 2015 January 20th, right? Yes, we had 11 records in the course table. Okay, there are 11 enrollments and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enrollments after 2015. If you check it here, we can see that these are all the 5 records after 2015. So we got it using the joins. All right, hope that it is clear to you, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Okay, so I'll see you in another video. Till then, bye.